Hello, thanks for checking out my video and welcome to Expanding Sound. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the EON 700 series, the 715s and the 718 subwoofer. I've been using these for some outdoor gigs over the summer for the last month or so, and I figured I'd just share my experience with you and let you know what I thought of them and tell you a few of the things that I like. So you'll have to forgive me if my narration isn't up to snuff with some of the other YouTube videos that you watch. It's not really my forte on here, but nevertheless, these are some new speakers, and I figured people would want to know how they react. And I feel like I have a decent amount of insight after using them in some various applications. So first off, I'll tell you what, drew me to the speakers and what I liked about them, and then I'll tell you how they operated in the setups that I use them for so far. So the 715s, to start with those, they are 1300 watt peak, 650 RMS. They get pretty loud. They are light, which is one of the selling points for me. I love how light these things are. That's really kind of important these days. If you do a ton of gigs, it's tough to be carrying around wood enclosures all the time. Yeah, people will argue the wood enclosures sound a little better. They're more resonant. And, they're probably right, but at the same time, these things sound good, and they're light, and they're easy to carry around, and sometimes that's half the battle if you're doing a ton of gigs. They're nice and loud. You do have to understand how to use DSP. There is a little bit of menu diving here. It's not just a speaker that you're just going to plug a cable into and turn the volume up. You actually have to do a little menu diving to get the kind of sound you want. The DSP is intuitive. It's easy to use. But if you're looking for something with no menu diving, then this probably isn't the speaker for you. Inside of the DSP, there is some EQ, there's some ducking, which is great for DJ setups. I actually haven't used that yet, but I think that's pretty cool. There is a DBX automatic feedback suppression, which is nice. I haven't even had to hear that kick in yet. My mixer that I use it with, the Soundcraft UIR 24, has its own feedback suppression that I was using. So maybe it was a combination of the two, but I haven't really tried to engage the automatic feedback suppression yet. As far as it goes for Bluetooth, there's a Pro Connect app which allows you to control the speakers, as well as the subwoofer, which is a nice feature. If you can't get to the back panel on any of these all the time, if you need to just set them up and install it and leave it in place, that would be a good, nice, easy way to control any of the features on the speakers themselves as you're setting them up. The Bluetooth also works for audio. It's a 5.0 Bluetooth connection. The thing that I would worry about with it is it doesn't seem to have any kind of password encryption on it. As soon as you turn them on, you can just hook your phone right into it. So that leaves me thinking that they are susceptible to just somebody in the audience deciding I want to listen to something else and, playing Bluetooth music through the speakers. That seems a little suspect to me. I would probably recommend, just connecting your phone to it or whatever if you're going to use them. So that way it's locked out so nobody else could use their phone through it, unless you disconnected yourself. But that seems a little funny. I'm hoping that JBL at some point in time remedies that with some sort of password encryption. I don't see any feature for that on there. Let's also talk about the 718 sub a little bit here. So that's a 1500 watt peak, 750 RMS. The one thing that I would say about this sub is that it is bigger and heavier than the other EON subs that I've seen. At one of the clubs that I work at, we use a 518, and it's pretty small. It packs quite a punch. It works very well, and that's one of those no DSP included. It's single knob, turn it up and let it rip. It does, have some filtering on it, obviously, like most subs do, so you can control it that way, but it's, very no frills, the 518. This thing has DSP built into it, which is nice. You can, use it to set some more options on it, but again, it is bigger and it is heavier, and, you will be carrying it around. It takes up much more space than the 518 did, or I'm assuming the 618 as well. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about what I used them for so far. So the very first gig I used them on was a band shell gig for a local band, playing in a town. And it was out in a field, probably about 1,000-person attendance. And I used the 215s and the one sub to run the front of house, basically. So As I walked around the space, I'm going to include some pictures here so you can see a little bit of this, but as I walked around the space, it carried pretty far. I mean, it had a decent throw. I would say I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 rows back with no issues. As I went really far back into the crowd, you know, it started to die a little bit, but it carried pretty far. I would say it carried up to at least 400 people with no issues, and the vocals were coming through nice and clear, as well as all of the instrumentation. Since it was outside, the sub lost some of its power, obviously. You know, it's just traveling into the air. But it still sounded nice. There was a bottom to it. Everything sounded round, and it was a very good, clean show. Everyone who was there was saying how great it sounded. So these things can carry a decent space. The next gig that I used them for was a block party, and that was just, you know, on a street, and obviously this thing overperforms in that kind of situation. The band was saying, you know, everyone was telling them how nice it sounded, and it was just a nice, easy gig. Aside from the fact that one of the guys decided to tie a tarp to the speaker, and, you know, the wind nearly took it and knocked it over, because things don't weigh a lot. So don't let anybody tie anything to your speakers. He did not ask me about it and just did it, and I was not too happy about that. But besides that, the gig went well. The speakers performed excellent, and I had no issues with it. I mean, they seem very vocal centric. The one thing I would say about them is their spread ratio, as far as like it goes for, you know, when you're walking around the speakers or whatever, how far it throws to the sides. They're very front centric. You know, you want to be in front of them, and maybe, I don't know, I would say possibly 45-degree angle to the sides to, you know, get a good sound out of them. Once you start getting to the side of them, you're really going to lose pretty much everything from the front of house. I mean, I was always a fan of these EONs to begin with, even the old line. I think I had a set of Gen 1s, you know, 10 years ago that I used to use as monitors, and then I would even use them as front of house sometimes if I needed to. And they always performed well. They're kind of vocal centric, the old ones, and I would say the same for these. I mean, you know, I'm running a full band through it. I'm miking everything, and they have a great sound, and the vocals do ride on top, which is nice. Probably has to do with the frequency response. I don't know what JBL thinks of as the application for these specifically. Are they targeting DJs? It kind of seems like that sometimes with some of the feature sets. But again, for bands, which is what I used it for, they performed great. And I have no complaints about them. I love how light they are. I think they punch above their weight class just for the amount that they cost. And I think I'll be happy with them. Let's see how they are a year from now when I'm using them even more so, because this was a end of the summer kind of thing where I was doing a bunch of seasonal gigs. So far, no issues. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the information that I gave. And it's a little difficult to actually, you know, play these speakers and give you some kind of idea of what they are, because when it comes to PA speakers, what is throwing a microphone in front of it going to do? I can't imagine that would give you any sort of idea how it can perform, other than me just telling you my own experiences with them so far. But if you're looking for some decent PA speakers that are cheap and can carry some loud volumes through them and don't weigh a lot, then this is a good buy, I think. The only thing that I would say that they should really worry about is, you know, making sure that they shore up that Bluetooth somehow. And, you know, you have to understand and want to engage the DSP and menu dive a little bit to really get them to perform the way they're supposed to. I mean, you can just take them out of the box and turn the volume up and you know, hope for the best, but you're not going to get what they really have to offer. You got to actually spend a little time with the speakers to understand what they have. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a like and you know, subscribe, all that good stuff that everybody says all the time, because it's helpful. And thank you for your time, and I hope you found this informative and useful. See you next time.